Welcome, boys, girls, and all in between to Kyber Squad. This is the second season of Kyber Squad in Spanglish or Star Wars in Spanglish, as you will. I'm Jerry, and with me, I have Mr. Freddie Days. Mr. Freddie Days, how you doing today? How you doing?
How you doing? Very good, my Jerry. Good, thank you. Uh, another episode, another ready for another season of Kyber Squad. Especially getting into our own, let's say, as phrasing Obi-Wan. The prequels are our speciality. Are our
Sith,
speciality.
Sith Lords are a speciality. Well, for us is
It's
the
kind of a tongue
prequel.
twister, like are our
I
are our
our speciality. Well,
the
whoever,
prequels.
whatever, whomever, you know, we try to talk in English. We're Mexicans, and we're bad hombres and all that jazz. But this season, we're gonna be talking about the prequels. We are millennials, and pretty much we were
Of
born
course.
with this type of timeline of Star Wars. So for
E-
us, this
Exactly. We basically grew up.
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
sorry,
Go
but
ahead,
we
go ahead, go
basically
ahead.
grew up with these movies. I was watching the episode one today, actually, and the date is from 1999. I mean, I'm from 92. I was 7 years old. And actually, I remember watching Star Wars as a little kid. And I believe before, I'm sure I watched before the episode one, before the actual the prequels 4, 5, and 6. The 4, 5, and 6 were like more like a decision, but I do remember being taken to the movie theater with my parents to watch this movie. So I mean, yeah, 1999 episode one. I mean, it's from our generation.
And for me, it hits to my heart because my little sister, my youngest sister, she was born in 1999. So for me, it's just everything just coming down to an end. And I take pride on it because I'm the one that showed my little sister Star Wars and try to just preach that Star Wars message. And
Exactly.
Star Wars for me started in 1999 in episode one. I didn't love it. I loved having that conversation with my father with episode four, episode five, episode six before
Yeah,
watching episode one.
it
But
was like
yeah,
something you both bond, or
we
right?
bonded in. Yes, 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 yes. We
Yeah.
bonded on Star Wars, but my father's not a fan of Star Wars, so it,
Okay.
it was kind of strange. It was kind of strange in the sense of me loving it or starting to love it at that time, and then as you grow up, you start to understand what holds together the Star Wars fashion. It's politics, it's dogma, it's everything. And once again, George Lucas was never known as the scientist, but he always grabbed here, there, from everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is very much shown in the prequels. I mean, the
Ex- e-
thing,
e- e-
if he didn't pull philosophy or dogma or whatever you will there, he tried his best. I mean, in the end, it was a movie to be selling his art, if you will, which his art
Okay.
wasn't his completely. It was taking from here and there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's complicated if you want to look at it as a project, as a university project, as a bachelor's project or whatever, because it's not that. I mean, it's at the end, it's a movie that will take from here and there, and it's a movie that will take different complexities and turn them into an art of work or into
Exactly,
a
and let me tell you, when I first watched the episode one, on as in being like a little kid, I mean, yes, you're amused and you're entertained because of all the, let's say, the bright lights, the what's it called, the saber fights, all the, the ships and whatnot. But I mean, you didn't understand it, or at least me. But how old I was? 92. I was 7 years old. So, I mean, what can you actually, let's say, catch from the message on the movie, or what the actual plot is? As you said, this movie has a lot of politics, a lot of war strategies, espionage. Has a lot of things, and yes, it has the few things that may be, let's say, a little bit boring or like um, extra. But I mean, episode one is not my favorite. Let me tell you, from the prequels, it's not my favorite, but I do enjoy it a lot, a lot, a lot. So, especially what um, after you grow up, or after I grew up, let's say that you can actually catch and analyze this message that Star Wars is showing you. You also like, I'm sorry, you also get to love all this and appreciate the fight scenes. I love the one of these fights, but well, I think I'm getting ahead too much.
no
Let's
no
talk
no
about what
yeah
we
yeah
love.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Let's talk about what we love, but
when we're talking about Star Wars in Spanglish, we're not breaking down as you will in the Spanish type of episodes. So in this type of thing, we're gonna be talking about how or why we love Star Wars in this specific episode that we're gonna be talking about every week, that we're gonna be just paraphrasing or whatever in
yeah,
a different language. So in this sense, yes, it's a lot to cover, but then again, it's not a lot to cover because Star Wars in the end is a movie,
yeah.
you know, and it's a movie to sell. It's not a movie. It's not a documentary type of movie. It's
Hmm.
not that.
At the end of the day, it's science fiction. I mean, I think that we all agree on that, that it's a sci-fi fiction. I mean, there are things that are not, um, let's say, possible in a way. We do know, or science does show you that some things might be possible, like let's say, um, what are they called? Like when they jump to hyperspace, like
Yeah,
light
like
speed
speed,
travels,
all
like
that shit. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
some things like that. But
it's not
as in
scientifically
terms
proven, but
of the force, exactly, as far as in the approach they did to the force in this, starting with this prequel, it's the, let's say, the approach that they did with the midichlorians. Now they did it something more pseudo scientifically, speaking,
yeah,
where they try to explain a little bit more, like, of the force, or like we've talked about it, like try to measure it, try to measure like the level of the force, or how strong are you with the force in some way, because in the prequels they show you the force like magic, like it's something that it's all around us, but it has a different approach. So in this one, it's different, but still, let's say, nothing that would make you hate these movies. I believe we all have heard these comments about the episode one, that the episode one is not good, and that's just because of Jar Jar Binks. Basically, the Jar Jar Binks blew the movie. So
And then
I don't
again,
agree. I don't
and then
agree.
again, I mean, the same actor, Mohammed. I and I do apologize if you actor are looking at this. I don't remember his last name, but he said that there were big plans for Jar Jar Binks, and you can tell that because George Lucas said it. I mean, George Lucas said that Jar Jar Binks was going to be a bigger character than what he posed to be. But there is a difference. There is a difference because we see Yoda, and George Lucas was all about the rhyme, all about rhyming episodes here and there. And that's where Jar Jar Binks was going to rhyme, but on the other side. Because who was the one who gave the power to the senator, Mr.
Mr. Jar Jar, yes, he's the one who. But that's, I mean, we're going to episode two. I mean, that we don't
Yeah,
see that
yeah,
until
yeah, yeah.
episode two.
We're skipping
So,
episodes. Although,
but I
although
do get the point.
we we
Yeah, I
we
do get your
we,
point.
we see this silly character. We see this character that doesn't put much into action, just um like
I think
flips here
I
and
think that
there and just gags and just being silly. But
exactly. But then
when we
again,
met Yoda,
uh-huh.
what was he like? What was Yoda like when we met him at first sight on episode 5? He was silly. He was like a
Yeah,
clown.
he was funny.
So
Yeah,
in my point of view, it's just that rhyme of you see this light side character, you gotta see the dark side character in the same sense. So, in my point of view, Jar Jar was going to be the master of Palpatine or the master of Sidious, if you will.
I mean, yeah, we've we've heard all the theories about Jar Jar, but uh, every time that I watch the episode, I think I get something new about Jar Jar. And so far, the, let's say, judgment that I've created on Jar Jar, it's a person so silly, so noble, that he has no bad intentions. That no matter whatever he does, something good is going to happen. I mean, sure, he's going to have his moments. I mean, that's why he was expelled in the first place from his, let's say, from his what would you call
Yes,
the from the city,
yes.
right?
But
But
although, man, I mean, in the end, they do that because of something. And the dark side of the force is not as plain as you might think it is. So for me,
you're right, yeah. Hmm.
it is just a strategy, if you will, very well played. But the thing is, we fall in love with the originals, which are four through six,
Right,
and it's about three protagonists, and then the band they play on, and two antagonists, and the band they play on. So for
right.
me, Jar Jar Binks today, now that I try to analyze things, I say if George Lucas was aiming to where I think he was aiming, that was a masterpiece. But then again, George Lucas always played
Right.
with what the fans said. That's why on episode number 2, we'll see. But
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it next week.
yeah, in the next couple of weeks. Couple of
So
weeks. Yeah, yeah.
in the next couple of weeks, right? But one of my favorite characters that we see in this movie, and you know I'm talking about. It's Qui-Gon Jinn. And Qui-Gon Jinn, it's a master full of knowledge, full of let's say vital energy of the Force, if you will, because you see how, let's say, how good of master he was whenever he was talking to Obi-Wan in the first scene, because as the movie starts, it gives you the plot, what the movie is going to be about. So there is a blockade, and the Chancellor, by then it was Chancellor Valorum, he sends on a secret mission his two Jedi. So we see how Qui-Gon had like this concept of the Force when Obi-Wan is like all nervous, like saying like, I feel like there's gonna be a plot, and he's you can tell he's scared, and Qui-Gon telling him, be mindful of the living Force at the moment, like leave the moment.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan tells him like, but Master Yoda says to be aware of the future. And Qui-Gon then again says like, yes, but not on expenses of the present. Be mindful, my young Padawan. So again, when you're 7 years old, how are you gonna get this? Like, you don't know what they're talking about. But now
Correct.
it has like a secret philosophical message that it's in one way or another you can get the idea of what he's trying to tell him.
Yeah.
And Qui-Gon is just a character that I love, man.
Yeah, I mean, Qui-Gon, for me, he was, from episode 1, because we do not see Count Dooku, or we do not see Jedi Dooku in the official side of the story of Star Wars.
That would have been great. And
because
at least a cameo,
there are theories that say that Dooku was the best Jedi ever. And you can tell because his Padawan was none other than Qui-Gon Jinn. So there are theories that say that Dooku was the one who would bring balance to the Force in the best way, and he was willing to do whatever it took to bring balance. And that's why he was going over to the dark side of the Force to put down the dogma of the Jedi, because the Jedi were corrupt with power by then. And that is a certain thing. And that happens everywhere. If you're working with a company, if you're working with here and there, it happens because you build power, you build whatever, you build charisma, or you build your posture as a company. But then again, you cannot diverge much.
Yeah, but well, I mean, Dooku is a character that I think we'll also have to discuss, next episode because Dooku,
we'll definitely discuss over him on a Kyber Live. But you guys, gals, all in betweeners, let us know when you want to talk with us live. I mean, on the platform.
Go to our Facebook page. Go to our Facebook page. I mean, feel free to comment. To post us, whatever you want. Post memes.
We're doing our lives on Mondays, and that's in Spanish. But if you guys want us to talk live with you guys and gals and all in betweeners, again, let us know the platform you will. Let us know the platform you want, and we'll make it happen. We'll talk with you guys, and we'll talk whatever. I mean, we want to talk about Dooku. Yes, that's the first live we're going to talk about. But just let us know the best platform. But that was a commercial, okay? So now let's get back to it. Now, Qui-Gon Jinn,
let's get back to him.
He was a Jedi. He was a Jedi to the core, because he was not he was not compelling to whatever the dogma was with the Jedi Order. They were full with power at that time, and that's what Qui-Gon Jinn fought with. And that is something that we see in this episode when he says, you know what? Anakin is the chosen one. No, but he's too old, he's this, he's that, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. I don't care what you say. But you know what?
Exactly.
Yoda,
So
he has more midichlorians or he has more count in the forest than you do. So shut up your
yeah.
freaking mouth. I know what I'm talking about because I don't fall with what you fall with. I don't fall with the bureaucracy. And that's very, very interesting about that character because you see him and you see him like this. You see him all clean about everything, and he's not part of the Jedi Council because he didn't want to.
exactly.
He didn't want
Exactly.
to be part of it.
He has an interesting conversation, and I believe it's towards the end or somewhere between the middle, whenever they make out their escape off to Coruscant. And after he wins this bet with Watto to free Anakin, he goes to the council, and having find out that Anakin had more midichlorians than Master Yoda. Whenever we talk about this concept of let's say of the Force, taking him and Anakin passing all the tests, and the council telling still, like, yes, he is Force sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, Anakin was force sensitive, and he was
Was that
quite a big asset in the force.
yeah,
But then again, he was old for the perspective of the Jedi, And then
yeah,
we find this and we find this connection of nowadays of what you might have all of the knowledge you have all of the theoretical whatever you've learned a lot, but then again, if you don't have 15 years in kind as far as experience, you're not worth shit. And then again, it's just like, why do you choose to be that much of a bureaucrat? When somebody has
and
got talent, she has got talent. So it's just about that. And Qui-Gon Jinn was about learning talent, knowing talent, and exposing exposing that talent, because that's what it's meant to be. I mean, if you got talent, nobody needs to put barriers on you. But then again,
exactly. And yes, Obi-Wan does talk to his master Qui-Gon about this. As I was saying, like, one of the excuses the council was, let's say, putting on the table was that Qui-Gon had a Padawan, and it was Obi-Wan that, let's say, by the time of the episode one, Obi-Wan, as in the character, how old was he? Like 18, 19 years old, maybe 20?
I could say 23. He was over the age.
Yeah, let's say
But then again, age
he
is
was
no
somewhere in the
difference.
20s. But let's say,
I mean, to the point of
exactly.
Qui-Gon, age means shit. That's the truth.
Exactly, and that's what Qui-Gon said. Like, okay, you know what? Like, if that's your excuse, Obi-Wan is already like prepared to do the trials to become a knight, so he will not need my help. And so, if that's the excuse, if that's the case, okay, I can take a new Padawan. And then the council was like, like, we're gonna talk about it, like, no excuse, but. And then that's when Obi-Wan has a talk, like, Master, you shouldn't discuss this with the council again. Like, you can get in trouble again. So this, whenever you hear like how Obi-Wan talks to him, means it gives you a good idea of how let's say rebellious Qui-Gon was in a certain way. Like he would do
Correct.
whatever
I mean,
he
he was a
find it
very,
was a
very,
correct.
very rebellious, and he had a point. He had a big point there because once you're part of a big company, of a big bureaucracy, if you will, your point doesn't really matter until you show that it does matter. So that was the point of Qui-Gon in my side of things. I mean, he
Yeah,
questioned, he raised up his hand, but then again, he was not part of the decision makers. And you don't need to be part of the decision makers. All the contraire, the decision makers need to know what the people are doing for the company, and they need to pay attention to that instead of just paying attention to the customers, or their customers, which are
or in this
the
case, the politicians.
correct. I mean, in the end of things, the ones that are in the trinkets, if that's a word, if that's the thing, the ones that are
Trenches. I believe it's the
trenches,
word is
trenches,
trenches.
trenches, trenches, trenches. There you go. The ones that are in the trenches are the ones that know what's going on, not the ones that are behind the
Yeah,
desk. So that was a point of Qui-Gon, and that's why he didn't want to be there. And we see it today. We see it today with Star Wars
yep,
Disney. Why
yep.
has the
Now,
Bad Batch had a big, big audience? Of course, they need to play with Disney rules. They need to play with those, and they play with those. They do. But then again, why has the Bad Batch not been a a bad rap? Why? Because
well, I mean,
there's
it
Dave
gives you a lot of
Filoni involved, and Dave Filoni was the Padawan of George Lucas. It is that freaking simple. He knows the recipe of
yep,
success. He knows it's all
yeah,
about family. He knows it's all about the culture that Star Wars has brought. He knows what's going on. But then again, you
yeah,
see
and
what has happened with the KK, Kathleen Kennedy.
yeah.
So
I was like,
and we're in Spanish and we're in English. So the cacas, which means poop in Spanish, is Kathleen Kennedy because it's K and then K. And then the KK in English, it's again Kathleen Kennedy. So it all comes down to you know what. It's
to
all
poop.
about ideology.
KK.
It's all about a politic agenda. And it's not about that. Star Wars is not about that. Star Wars is about entertaining us as fans. It's about fan service. It's about entertaining. We want to be entertained. We don't care about an agenda. We care about the story. We care about what's out there. And we care about
Yep.
what you have to bring us. Bring us new
Now,
characters. We don't care the color. We don't care the race. Bring us characters and bring those characters development. But then again, we're tergiversating from the point. Pretty
yeah.
days,
Now,
bring me down to the point, please.
yeah. So Jerry, what he wants to say is that these prequels don't have much of a politic agenda as in the sequels. But we'll get there. We'll get there next season probably. But something that I want to say that I found very also interesting again after I saw the prequels, I watched again. I'm sorry. Once I saw the original trilogy, 4 through 6. You know how big of a character is Darth Vader. That at the end, I mean, it's revealed that his name was Anakin. So watching the first episode, it gives you a very idea from the very beginning who Anakin was, how he started. He was a slave. That from the moment he had memory, in the movie he says that like by the
So
time that he was 3 years old, he become a
the
slave.
sad
So
thing about Anakin or Darth Vader, however you want to call him, however you want to put him, is that he was always a slave because he was a slave
yep,
from the beginning, and then he became a Jedi, which then again a slave again to the Republic, and then he became a Sith, but to the Empire, for which he was a hand of the Emperor, and he was a slave again. He never lived his life.
exactly.
He could never, he could never live his life with Padme. He could never live his life with his mother. He could never live his life to his uh exceedings, if you will. He can never
Expectations up to his expectations. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
he never was himself because he was always burdened to somebody else telling him what to do. So he, in my point of view, was the most human character. And that's why, in my point of
Yep.
view, again, I love that guy because he
Yep.
was just playing it the way he could play it. But then again,
Yeah.
he had
And
his point of view, he had his personality, and he needed to show that. And he was the most
yeah.
or the strongest of the characters to show that, you know?
Yep. Yeah. And let's talk about, let's say, the villains in this movie, because I don't know about you, but all the way until now, and let's say excluding Palpatine, that, well, in this movie we don't talk about Palpatine. We just start presented with this figure of Sidious. Sidious is always like a hologram, never present. You don't see the actual dark presence with the robe, and I think just like in one scene with Darth Maul, whenever he's talking about getting their revenge. But in the scene where they are escaping and making their escape to the ship, when Darth Maul approaches and attacks Qui-Gon, first of all, the scene of the fighting scene between two people was more active than whatever we saw in the original trilogy, and that fight, it got you right there, and it just left you wanting with more. And then, as the movie continues with the plot, and we already talked about Qui-Gon taking Anakin to the temple and getting his confrontation. I'm sorry, with the council. What goes after that? I believe they go back to Naboo, and I mean that part. There is like a sequence of uh, we can say just like more history, nothing like very relevant, all the way until the end. Whenever they are making their escape, the fight with Darth Maul, once again, I don't know, like I get the goosebumps just by thinking of that, like the especially the soundtrack, like all the trumpets whenever the doors open and we see this Darth Maul, which also his appearance is really badass if you ask
Yeah,
me.
the Duel of Fates, which is obviously a masterpiece of Sir
Yeah,
John Williams. I love that guy.
yeah.
Oh no,
Dun, 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 dun,
oh
dun,
my
dun, 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 dun.
goodness.
No, no, no. I love that
You're
soundtrack. I
just
mean,
like, oh my goodness. And then you see
yeah,
him and you see all of his malice and you see all of his hatred. hatred.
And you see a double lightsaber,
You
especially
see
that, a
that,
double lightsaber.
and you see a double fight against one man. It's just, I mean, mind blowing. You're just like,
Yeah,
that's the expression, man. I mean, it's just mind blowing. It's there's no other word or there's no other phrase but that, mind blowing. And you see him fighting against two Jedi. You see how freaking strong he is in the dark side, how big of an assassin he is. And I mean, it's just wow. You see him fighting and then puts Obi-Wan down. He still fights with Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is fighting, but then again, we know Qui-Gon is more of an intellectual than a fighter. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, Darth Maul, who's interpreted by what's this guy's name? Ray Park, I believe it's his name. He's
correct.
actually,
Yeah.
I think he was oh, what happened? I believe I turned off my camera by accident. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
boy. Bad hombre. You're a
Uh,
bad hombre. You're a bad hombre. Get on your
but Ray
side of the
Park,
wall right now.
I believe Ray Park was like a master or knows martial arts, so that allowed him to actually play a, a really good paper as Darth Maul. Like he
Correct.
would do acrobats,
And
like
he had not
flips.
much of a script. I mean, he had nothing to say, but everything he
Also, as a
interpreted.
fun fact,
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
as a fun fact, the voice we hear in the movie on Darth Maul, the only time that Darth Maul actually speaks, it's not the voice of Ray Park. That's the voice of somebody else. I don't know if you knew about
Who
that,
would
but
that be? Who would that be?
I don't remember the voice. I might be wrong, but I believe that the voice is the same person who actually plays it on the Clone Wars on the animated series. I believe, but Ray Park does
So
not speak.
would that be Sam Raimi, Star Killer?
Um, no, 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 no. Again, I don't remember the name of the person who actually. Uh,
Well,
oh,
you guys, gals, you know more
you
than
let us
us.
know.
So let us know in the comments who that would be. Again, we're Mexicans. we're trying to we're just trying to get a hold of everything Star Wars related. We're what was the word? We love Star Wars. We're not the experts on the subject, but we try to bring it
We like to
down.
think we are, but we're not.
We would love to be experts. We would love to, but we're not. That's the truth.
Yeah, but there's a lot of information out there. But anyways, I mean, Darth Maul, interpreted by Ray Park, great villain, a great villain, and he was so good that at the end, unfortunately, in the movie, he kills Qui-Gon Jinn. He kills one of the best Jedi's. I
And
want to say ever, but but
and then again, we
one of
need
the
to
best
say this.
Jedi's.
We need to say this. I mean, Dave Filoni,
His death was
the
necessary.
George Lucas Padawan, Dave Filoni, George Lucas Padawan, he has said this. He has said that if Qui-Gon were still alive, Anakin wouldn't be the person he turned to be because he was in the end his father figure, because he was Anakin. I meaning Anakin turned to be the the guy that was just burdened with this big lap of a lot of things. And
Yeah, exactly. I
Obi-Wan
mean,
Obi-Wan turned to be the brother figure who tried to be the father figure, but he couldn't ever be that. So
Yeah, and I would like to discuss a little bit more of that into in episode two, when once we see like this evolution and years later. But you're right. I mean, Qui-Gon. Well, let me rephrase. Anakin had the expectation. He had hoped that Qui-Gon were his master, but unfortunately, I mean, he was killed by a Sith, or in this case, a Sith assassin, and and Obi-Wan was still, let's call it a kid. I mean, a very young adult that, even though Qui-Gon was sure, or he assured the council that Obi-Wan was ready, he lacked a certain maturity, and he was formed too well into the council, let's say, rules. Obi-Wan was like, the council says this, like, you should listen to the council. He was always like towards the council. Qui-Gon was more like towards the force, what the force says, what do you think it's right. So
correct.
we
Yeah.
so we
I mean, everyone was like confused at the time because he
yeah,
was just growing with the force, and then his master, who could have become his brother, was gone, and then all he had was a council. All he had left was a freaking council. So
yeah,
he
and,
had to kneel down, and he never had the opportunity to think for himself. He was always guided by something, and he was a great Jedi. He became a great Jedi as Mr. Qui-Gon had foreseen. He did, but that was it. A great Jedi
yep.
in the eyes of the council.
Now, let's not forget, because we're getting towards the end, let's not forget that also in this movie, they introduced to us some of the characters that are going to be for a long, long time in this saga. And I'm talking of R2 and C3PO, because they are also introduced. R2 being an a mechanic droid that was able to help everybody towards their escape, and it was the last of 4 droids that were lost in that attempt of escape. And then we meet C3PO still as a protocol droid, all with just the exoskeleton and circuits, all naked, as R2
For that
as
was
R2 let him know.
that was a funny scene, man. I mean, that was a funny scene, looking at R2 and C3PO meeting for the first time, and
No,
R2
it's
being
it's
all shitty,
technically,
like, hey,
it
you
is
know
the first
what? You're
time.
naked, bitch. And C3PO being like, what do you mean naked? And he was like,
I
well,
mean,
your secrets are shown, man. Your secrets are there. Oh my goodness. Oh
yeah.
my goodness. You're like, oh my God.
Technically, it is the first time they meet, because I mean, by the time of the original trilogy, I mean, all of this had happened. I mean, it's just a matter of like the time. I mean, the if George still Lucas would have, I wonder, and that would be like a good, let's say, topic of conversation. What would have been like if George Lucas would have launched his, let's say, Star Wars back in the 70s with the first episode, with episode 1, 2, and 3, and in the 90s, 4, 5, and 6. The effects could have been completely different. The story may be the same, but with different effects. It could have been something. I mean, I don't know, but uh, going, I'm digressing, but going to your point, this is the first time that R2 and C3PO meet.
I
And
mean,
also another very
to your
important,
point of what would it been, I think the way that it has been, or the way that it happened, was the best way possible, because
yeah,
it does reflect the way that the empire had everything, and the way that the rebels weren't able to get all of that technology. So, to my point, it is the best way that it could ever happen, because
Yep.
it is about the protagonists, and the development of technology towards the years, or throughout the years, if you will, um, has been growing, has shown a greater development of other characters. So that's the thing,
Yep.
so in the
And
prequels, we focus on Anakin, we focus on Obi-Wan, we focus on the parents of Leia, and we focus on this and that, but we focus as well on other characters, and it gives us
yep.
a bigger depth as far as the other characters and why everything developed the way it did. So I think the technology throughout the years has helped the story. So for me, it
Well,
wouldn't been
let
great.
me get you there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
Technology like wasn't good with the sequels. I mean, we had good effects, but the story was trash. But
Correct, but then again, it wasn't George Lucas anymore. They
yeah,
they
I
kicked
know,
him
I
out of the
know,
project. They kicked him out.
I know.
If we would follow George Lucas's story for the sequels, it would have been a whole new different story, because Darth Maul would have returned, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen because Disney said, you know what? All of what was out there, as far as Thrawn, as far as what Luke did, as far as blah, 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 this and that, it's not the Star Wars story anymore. So fuck you guys,
Yeah.
and let's do our thing. Let's do our political agenda. Let's bring in a black person. Let's bring in a Latino. Let's bring in a woman, and that woman is gonna be the protagonist. And you know what? Let's just push this agenda. Let's bring in an Asian girl who is just gonna be falling for the black guy, and that black guy is just gonna be the crybaby. And you know what? But let's
Yeah.
not mess with that right now, because right now
Yeah. Let's not.
we'll
But
get there.
an,
We'll get there, but not right now.
l- let's mention a strong character, a woman character in this movie, in this prequel, and I'm talking about Natalie Portman. Oh my God,
Oh
Natalie,
my goodness.
as played as in this paper as Queen Amidala and as her maid Padme. This movie gives you a really good idea, or starts to give you an idea, because Padme goes or becomes a very important character in the next movies. But in this one, it tells you like she was the youngest ever in the history of Naboo to become queen, elected a queen. So it tells you like, okay, she is super smart for a person of her age, with a very important um,
Roll,
ver-
roll.
role. I was gonna say more like obligation, because she is the queen of Naboo. It's a
Correct, correct.
strong obligation, man. I mean, in the movie, she plays as a maid because, again, she wanted to know where she was. She wanted to know. She was curious, but then she had a decoy. And I'm assuming another person that looks almost exactly as her, and she would just put her makeup and her clothes, and it's like, okay, you're gonna be here. Do us whatever in your best judgment I would do, but I'm gonna go here. And we learned that all the way until the end, when she says like, I am the queen, and everybody's like, what? Qui-Gon was like, what?
Yeah, yeah,
You're the
because
maid and you're the
Qui-Gon
queen,
was like, when they
what?
went to Tatooine, Qui-Gon was like, hey, you know nothing. You're just nobody. You're just nobody. The queen
Yeah,
would trust my judgment. But guess what? He didn't know she was a queen. The
The
best
queen.
stuff
Exactly.
ever.
Exactly. So, Padme here has like a very, not very, let's say, a very important role other than the queen and the maid and, a girl that is here and there. But going to the following movies, once we get there into that discussion, Padme had a great evolution. So, so Padme here, even though she's like a secondary
she
character,
she did up until episode 3 at the
yep,
end. But we'll get there. We'll get there
we'll
and
get there. We'll get there.
we'll
Yeah.
definitely talk about that. But
And
yeah,
just
yeah,
to wrap this up, well, we were talking at the final scene where they were doing the ceremony to Qui-Gon. Um, we see this the official ceremony of the Jedi where they are burning his body, and I want to make emphasis on whatever you mentioned about Obi-Wan being a more like a brother. In the final scene when they
yeah.
show Anakin and Obi-Wan, they're both looking at each other like, I guess we're on our own now.
Yeah,
Like
it's just like, hey man,
it's
well,
yeah,
whatever.
because
Yeah,
Yoda
whatever.
also Yoda talks to Obi-Wan and he says like, we were gonna say no to Qui-Gon, but being now that he's dead, we're going to respect his last wish. So we don't want to, but we feel sorry about up to all the way to a certain point. It could be like, they felt bad about Obi-Wan and the circumstances, so they're just like pitying him. It's like, okay, yeah, well, we're gonna respect that, but we
Yeah,
don't want
yeah,
to.
yeah. I mean, Yoda was
So
like, well, you know what? Whatever. Qui-Gon's not here anymore. So he was it was his last wish. So date in
and
Spanish, which
and
means just like go ahead. Go ahead, man. I mean, whatever.
and and yeah, I mean, basically that's the movie. But before ending up and going to the last comments, I want to leave this with the most important, or one of the most important phrases I heard in this movie. Fear uh, leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. This is what the movie leaves me as a final note. And I mean, it's just a great movie.
Hold on. We need to talk about one thing very important that we
Uh-huh.
haven't talked about the Gungans.
Okay.
What about the Gungans? We haven't spoken about, or we haven't spoken much about
Right.
the
Okay.
Gungans. What about those? What are your thoughts about the
Mm,
Gungans? What about their civilization? All that, all that.
I, I mean, as far as in the civilization and the species and how they're uh, portrayed, if that's the word, how they are shown to us, they're very interesting. A species that can basically swim and basically hold their breath for a very long time. That's interesting. Uh, they are they have their army. I'm not sure how aggressive they might be. I mean, they do support at a certain point to the people of Naboo to fight the droid army, but
In the words of Qui-Gon, they're symbiotes. They're symbiotes.
they're symbiotes. I would say they're more like of um, evolutioned organism and species that was from Naboo that evolved over the years. I mean, I don't know. They're interesting. Again, Jar Jar seems to be the only like, let's say, special kid from that from that race. I mean, there's not much to talk about the Naboo. There's only a few scenes, and the only Gungan that we actually see, it's the king and Jar Jar. So yeah, I mean they're interesting, but yeah, that's it to me.
Well,
to
for
me.
for me, it's an interesting civilization because looks to be like they're not mentally bright, but they're very physically and where or warly bright. And then again, we see Jar Jar. Jar Jar, I mean, for me, it would have been a great character development to see him come to what George Lucas had planned because the same actor, Mohammed, and I don't remember his last name and please apologize or I do apologize. Please um um he had a big role to play. And then again, we fans came and we battled, we fought against Jar Jar's development, but it would have been great to see him become the
and
Darth Jar Jar theory that had been playing out there in the
and
dark
let's
trade.
remember that back in the day we had no social media. So George Lucas listening to the let's say fans complaints, it means that he had like a lot of comments, I don't know, from the paper, from emails, from letters, whatever it was, what they used back in the time.
Correct. Yeah, it might have been a lot of calls, might have been a lot of like a written mail and all of that jazz, but we don't know. I mean, it would have been great for me to see a Jar Jar development, but that's all I'm gonna say. And anywho, that's all from our end. That's all our take in episode one. Again, from the Mexican side of view or from the Mexican point of view, it all differs from a certain point of view. But anywho, guys, gals, all in betweeners, let us know what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like. Leave us a like, a dislike. Let us know how we can improve here for you guys. Uh, up scores, of course.
Of course,
Subscribe,
of course.
subscribe. We're gonna try to bring you some content in English, in Spanish, in Spanglish. We're trying to differentiate ourselves from other podcasts as far as Star Wars. We're trying to put everything in different social media out there. But yeah.
Of
Let us
course.
know. Thank you for playing this. Thank you for staying in up until the end. And we'll see you guys in the next couple weeks. Freddy Days, final comments.
Final comments. I love this movie. Well, I love episode three, but I would put episode one next to it. The Phantom Menace, real good movie. I and certainly enjoy it. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, let us know, guys. Is it your favorite too? Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Let us know in the comments. Share this video, like it, dislike it. Just let us know. Follow us in all of our social media: Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're there. Um, Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for your follow
And
um,
even on TikTok.
on Spotify and even on, yes, I did mention TikTok, I believe. Uh, Follow us on YouTube, and we'll be listening to each other on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
All righty then. See you guys in the next couple of weeks. Again, thank you for playing this. Thank you for staying till the end. Thank you
We are
for
Kyber Squad.
bearing with us. We're Kyber Squad. That was Freddy Days. This is Jerry Moger. We'll see you next time. Au revoir.
Bye bye.